Now on BBC Two, North Westminster, with Jim Hancock.
Granada TV produces Coronation Street and the Royal Family in the North West. But could programmes like these be heading south? We look at the threat posed to the region's biggest TV maker from a southern merger. And the man who's become leader of the North West Assembly despite being under police investigation. Hello and welcome to North Westminster. In the next 2 weeks, Stephen Byers, the Secretary for Trade and Industry, is expected to make a difficult decision, one that could affect what you see on your TV screens. He has to decide whether to allow the two southern ITV giants, Carlton and United News and Media, to merge. If this goes ahead, North West MPs believe it could damage Granada's competitive position, seriously affecting jobs and the North West economy. Meanwhile, in Manchester, the BBC and Granada are currently in talks about a possible joint venture. And many media pundits say we should have just one ITV company for the whole of the country. According to today's Observer, Stephen Byers' decision could be the most significant shake-up in UK media ownership for a decade. So, what's the future for independent television? And how serious is the threat to the makers of Coronation Street? CHERYL Holden reports from a Granada studio.
This is the set of The Writing House. It's an education programme made for Channel 4 here at Granada. It's just one of the shows made here for regional and national audiences for broadcasters that include the BBC as well as independent television. Granada's a major television production centre in the North West.
There's the door, Bob.
The Royal Family and Stars in Their Eyes are just two of the most well-known names amongst a list including some programmes which need no introduction. But could shows like these be made elsewhere? Granada was at risk of being left out in the cold after the two ITV companies in the south of England announced last year that they wanted to merge. At the moment, Granada is the largest of the ITV companies, with a block of territory in the north that includes the Yorkshire and Tyne Tees areas, as well as the franchise for London at the weekends. But if the Carlton United News and Media merger took place, there'd be a new dominant southern block. In January, Granada said it might want to bid for one of the companies itself. It wants the government to stop the merger and says it could damage its production base in the North West.
We think if the merger goes ahead, it will mean that the majority of advertising revenues will migrate southwards. It will create a north-south divide. It will be not possible to maintain the balance of revenue between the two key regions, north and south.
Not surprisingly, that's not quite how Carlton and United News and Media see it. UNM has said,
bringing Carlton and United's television businesses together will strengthen British broadcasting, contribute to the success of digital terrestrial television and boost programme making, while safeguarding ITV's excellent record in regional news and programming.
Granada recently commissioned a report from Manchester Business School into how important a part it plays in the life of the North West.
Arguably, Manchester is Britain's second city in terms of culture. And Granada undoubtedly plays a major part in influencing the culture of the region.
The report found that Granada boosts the North West's economy by nearly £190 million.
If you look at the transformation that's taken place in Manchester over the last 20 years, for instance, it's been quite profound. When I first moved here, it was struggling to cope with deindustrialisation. And there was a lot of unemployment, and the general mood of the city was one of despondency, I think you could argue. Now it's much more vibrant. There's a thriving cafe culture, for instance. Cafes are populated by people in software, in the media, in the creative industries in general.
The company employs 1,500 people, with another 4,000 providing equipment and services. What would happen to those jobs if Granada was badly affected by a merger? Or if it was blocked and a Granada bid succeeded? Could that mean production jobs going south?
The proof is in what's happened with our acquisition of LWT. We have still maintained our production facilities in the north, even when we acquired a southern licence. We would be as committed to maintaining Granada land for the next 40 years or 44 years as we have been in the last 44 years.
Graham Hall says it's important that Granada isn't lost to the region.
I think it would be detrimental to the media business in general, and I think it could affect the standing of the Northwest in the struggle, arguably, between the North and the South. And anybody with eyes in their heads knows that there was obviously a lot of conflict between the North and the South, and the Granada is one of our champions, in my opinion.
But reassuringly for Corrie fans, Granada's stressing that whatever happens, there's no question of the street ever leaving the north.